All right, welcome everybody to this edition of the MAPP Alumni CPE webinar series. My name is Dave Sharon. I have been working with this effort for a while, but I've got to tell you, I've got a great team working with me now. Katie Snyder has been doing a lot with this recently, getting speakers, including Elaine today. And Gloria Park has just joined us. Gloria is one of my classmates from MAPP 06. And she's just joined us and is getting some folks, and I'll say a little bit more about that. If anybody else would like to help us out, we're always happy to have folks bringing ideas, or if you just have an idea about a topic or especially a speaker that you think we ought to hear. We are looking for folks, of course, related to positive psychology. Like to see folks that have some applications material that they can speak, or new researchers that are talking about new things that may not have gotten out there that much, especially some younger researchers. So that's a little bit of the framework that we work with. Let me talk about what we've got coming up, and then I'll say a word about the mechanics for those that may have just joined us, and then get right with Elaine and let her get started. So we've got our next two webinars already lined up, and there's going to be a little bit of a deviation in dates, so I want to emphasize this for you, and I'm very excited about both of these. So on April the 12th, Tal Ben-Shahar is going to be joining us. Most of you know Tal, tremendous teacher, tremendous student of all the literature, and just hugely focused on how to take this and apply it, put it to work. So he's going to be there, and Tal has asked that we do this as what we're starting to call our back to class format. So we're going to open it up a little bit more for questions to come in. We'll be talking with him about the exact format of that, but we may be doing some live camera, live audio questions for that, because I think it's going to be more of a discussion and less of a didactic than some that we have done. We're going to explore this. So I think this will be especially good for folks, as many of you are, who have some familiarity with Tal's work and know kind of about the breadth of what he's done. And then on April the 30th, so it'll only be a little over 2 weeks after that, and we're doing this because it's actually the only time that we can work this out. Gabrielle Erdene is going to be joining us. And so Gabrielle is at NYU now, I think, but her book, Rethinking Positive Thinking, talks about her research going back decades, looking at how positive visualization actually minimizes goal, pursuit, and achievement unless it is also coupled with a candid look at the obstacles that are going to get in the way and making a plan to get around the obstacles. And when you boil all that down, she comes up with a format she calls WOOT, which is wish, outcomes, why would it be so good, obstacles, and a plan to get around them. And the research is just compelling, both from her and from her husband, that when people get it down to a concrete thing that they're going to do and then think, what's going to get in my way, and make a plan to get around that, often of which is something inside ourselves, the likelihood that they're going to actually take action and pursue the goal goes way up. So this is dynamic research for all of us, you know, in education, people who are coaching, doing all kinds of things. We see people who make a commitment to do something, don't follow through. This is huge. So we're looking forward to that. And then we've got others that are coming in also. So I am getting information. Margaret Greenberg has let me know privately that sound is going in and out. If you're having that problem, what we've found a lot of times, because sound is coming through okay to other folks, check for background noise. Because it's your speaker, and make sure that you're muted. Because if that's happening at all, it can get in the way of the sound. All right, so that's what's coming up. Like I said, if you'll hover your cursor over your screen, you'll make sure that you're able to see the chat box that's down in the middle bottom part of your screen. Click on that. It'll open up. That's where we're going to put in questions. Elaine and I've talked about this. She's going to have some time for questions. So be sure to put them in as you think about them. And if there's a reason to bring them up during the program, I will do that. But Elaine has certainly saved some time to do it at the end. Other than that, let's go ahead and get started. I'm at Elaine's request, and I feel the same way when I'm speaking a lot of times. We're not going to do an extended introduction here. Many of you know Elaine. If you don't, you sure need to. But she is obviously a MAPP grad. She went on back and got a PhD in kinesiology, and who focuses on the area of the body and positive psychology, the body and well-being. And I'm going to let her take it from there, Elaine, thanks for sharing your knowledge and your research with us. I will be muting mine and going on off the video so that I can pay attention and look forward to discussing this more during question and answer.
What a treat to be with you. Thank you, Dave, so much. Thanks to Tiffany, Katie Schneider, and Gloria Park, who has been a real angel to me as I just revel in the glow of this beautiful community. So let me just start by thanking you. I looked at the list of who is in attendance today. Hi, Margaret Greenberg. Hi, Rolanda, Lisa, and friends. I can't really see right now, but I want you to start just centering in your body.
Hello,
Let me hear your body talk. How are you feeling right now? How's your posture? How's your breathing? So let's just settle in. Let's exhale out for a moment and just center in, breathing in through the nose and just taking your time. If you want to close your eyes or soften through your jaw, you can do that. And then blow out with an exhale. So it's almost like a let it out. Today, I have an ambitious program for us. And so on some of the slides, there are some words, but this is for your own reference. But for today's talk, I want to talk about my research around positive aging, vibrancy, and embodiment, a fast-growing area about whole fitness, about positive programs, and some of the exemplars that are out there to help us lift up areas around positive communities and businesses and where we can use our bodies at work eudaimonically to help lift up the community and to help others with our healthy bodies, positive psychology and motion, along with the hedonic, with enjoying movement. Sometimes life can be really hard, so why not enjoy your training? So I'd like to share some strategies to help you think about why you move, about our energy management, about food, our fuel, about the power of rest and relaxation and nature. The body is important to how we think, feel, and behave, and applied positive psychology in the body is an excellent fit. Embodied cognition is a pretty new area of study. Previously, through history, it was thought that the mind and body were two different things, and although sometimes it's treated like that today, they are inherently connected. There's a somato-psycho element and a psychosomatic element. One way we can manage this is through activation. So as we started with earlier, breathing exercises, complete breathing, lifting up the posture, lifting the rib cage with the crown of the head to the sky. And if you join me in that, the crown of the head, whether you're sitting or standing, we're going to just depress the shoulders down, lift the rib cage up, pull the belly button into the spine, square the hips, maybe place your feet flat on the floor, and then just breathe in for 2 counts and then out for 4 or a little bit longer. So we can just take a moment, settle in, and we can really control our breathing. Arousal involves physiological responses and also mind processes. So you can see on this scale that it's a continuum of neural excitement where we have Homer Simpson on the left in a low overload condition, right? Nothing is expected. He's not giving it. He doesn't even have pants on. And then we can go to the high overload to the right here, where it's just a panic situation. And then there's a sweet spot if we go up where there's optimal performance, and that's what we want to go for in our days. And although many of us are not going to train for the Olympics, what we can do is train for our best days. Carpe momentum, seizing the days by moving well, by controlling activation, by harnessing eustress or good stress, and maybe avoiding distress or just trying to put up your protective armor when there's time. So this is one of my favorite people in the world, Karen Lenhart Cook, who did register for the talk today. And here she is, after a momentary relaxation, achieving a Y scale as a Masters National Aerobic Champion, a woman who I adore, as I said, and coached more than 20 years ago. So Karen here is demonstrating a fantastic move, working balance, flexibility, strength, grace, poise, and what she does is she controls the level of activation here. By breathing out, by breathing in, by centering, by putting aside distractions that might increase our levels of distress, we're able to really achieve optimal performance and reach challenging goals. I'd like to talk a little bit about my body talk, my experience, around my body. I remember being a kid in gym class, and one of my favorite friends was a girl, Mary. And Mary was really the smartest girl in the class. But she wasn't very good in gym per our teacher, Mr. Hannon. And he would embarrass her. And it really broke my heart because he was really conflating her physical ability or what he felt lack of as a tool for embarrassment. And I think that a lot of times according to Rady, we can create programs to uplift people in our communities and lift people up in schools and at work. So if we be mindful, maybe more cooperative programs. So one thing that I also am going to come out a little bit. When I was a kid, I was bullied, and by adults. I was very, very skinny at one point, and I really had a hard time gaining weight. I remember my mother almost feeding me raw eggs, and it was really hard on me. And it was a time in the world, and this might be really hard to hear, but when Biafra was in the news because children were starving in Biafra, and I was called the Biafran kid. And it was a really hard thing. So we have these like labels in our heart and our mind and our DNA that we carry, and the hurts. So how do we heal the body in our life? And we are old enough to grow better and better. One of the best things that happened for me was learning the value of education. I'm a little bit of a late bloomer. Got my MAPP degree in my 50s, and I'm coming out, baby. I got my PhD in my 60s. But one thing is I took a gap year, and I became a Playboy bunny that year. And my cousin Anne-Marie and my friend Jerry Lynn were also bunnies, and it was a way to make money. And then I was able to buy a car and then go to cross country and then go to school. But that's another story. But when I was a Playboy bunny, they had a buffet where you could go. Well, I was eating so much food that I was labeled a chabette. So I had to go for a little training session, counseling about getting my shape back in shape. But the thing that helped me the most was swimming and moving my body in space. Other areas around my body talk was an occupational therapy class I took when I was an undergrad. And the components of the class were a physical disability situation where you went to Runnels, a beautiful hospital to help people and to observe and learn, and then also a psychiatric hospital. And our teachers really made us walk the talk as much as we could. She had us go to a place. I had to go to a mall in a wheelchair with a colleague. And that was a really powerful experience for me to feel that I was not being seen. So it really affected my empathy later in the world, along with physical disability, knowing that people are suffering and we really need to help people. And I found through my career that we could really help people lift up by connecting them and moving together. I was in the Cane jazz dance class as an adult in my 20s, and I was the worst student. And when I started teaching aerobics, I was the worst, but I loved it so much. I had the perseverance or the grit to keep going and knew that this would be a way maybe I could help people. So through the years, I've been teaching dance fitness since 1979. I've taught aqua fitness, which is a great equalizer, and I'll talk about that later. Started a program in 1991 to reduce alcoholism and drug abuse in senior adults, and that is an area around intergenerational well-being that I'm very, very passionate about, and also cross-training. So here's another example of my own personal body experience. I was really honored to be on the cover of Muscle Training Illustrated magazine. And I was the first aerobic instructor to be on the cover. But I remember walking in to the studio that day, and it was like I could see the disappointment in the photographer's eyes that I wasn't a traditional, maybe like body built, long limbed person, and I was like a little bit more curvy, and it was a really humbling experience for me to feel like I had hit this really lovely pinnacle, and yet during that shoot to feel so poorly about it. And it made me think about honoring the body and having confidence and empowerment and whole fitness training, which I had been doing for a number of years at that point, and about boot camp and how, again, life can be tough. Why do we have to beat up people and yell at people? Why can't we inspire them toward body positivity, love, care for ourselves, others, and our planet? So a couple different theorists have really impacted my trajectory of finding my wholeness as a human. Here, Carol Riff's beautiful work. And again, I'm just going to breeze through this. Tal Ben-Shahar, who's coming on April 12th to our MAPP group. This model from of embodiment, spiritual, physical, intellectual. I look at also the multiple intelligences, not just like IQ, and relational and emotional, and also relational. I think of ourselves, others, and the environment, the world, a group, our community, our office. Really affect how I integrate the body and movement into helping people flourish. So we talked about meliorism with and habits and the flywheel from James. But what we want to do is get more of the good stuff and less of the bad. So of course, smoking, and again, back to hedonic, why not enjoy exercise? So here are some strategies around a new field, lifestyle medicine, where we are proactively approaching our health and well-being. So here, this is forest bathing as a Japanese form of getting back into nature. Here is a slide about playing outside. There's a movement, No Child Left Inside. You want to get kids outside. And also I've included some really lovely links here. National Wildlife Foundation has some great tools for educators, therapists, people who have children. I guess those are parents. And just here, Children in Nature. So these are great resources that you can go back to, as these will be online, along with extensive references that I have also put forward. Around energy management and lifestyle medicine, mindful eating with intention, saying grace, maybe thinking of where the food that you are eating came from, who was responsible, blessing the food, blessing the people. So having grace and gratitude around your food, settling down, again, mindfully approaching meal planning, where you're going to be, and think about balance in eating, lots of colors on your plate, variety of foods, clean foods, again, moderation. I just came back from Italy, and the plates are smaller there than when I go out and get like my favorite 8 huevos rancheros at Bradley Cafe, which is 2 meals. And appreciation, again, that will really help. I think that I don't like the word obesity, but we are under moving, overeating, and it's just affecting our non-communicable diseases in the world. Also, I think we approach food often from the negativity bias, the diet, and I'm a big fan of the don't diet, because I believe that the bigger, and research shows, the bigger the deprivation on one end, the bigger the binge potential on the other. I like this scale. It's called the Hunger and Fullness Scale. So you can even think about it now. I mean, it is lunchtime. Where are you on the scale from 1, famished, faint, and irritable, to 10, overstuffed? So maybe when you're ready to eat, and feel free to eat now or whatever you need to do, think of, where am I on the hunger scale? Ideally, you're going to be at a 3 to 4, and then halfway through the meal, you can pause and check where you are again. And it just gives you a more mindful approach to thinking about where you are. Like sometimes we might eat for no reason, or we have different reasons we eat what we eat when we eat them. So even now you might think about, what are some of the reasons that you eat what you eat when you eat it? Is it culture? Is it a habit? maybe I know when I feel I need like a little comfort, I'll make a cup of hot tea with milk, and it reminds me of sitting with my grandma, my nunny. So I think that that is really a great approach to just become more mindful about nutrition, eating, and energy. Again, how's the availability for unprocessed foods near your home, work, or play? And if you can, like, start to plan ahead, or all around the idea of lifestyle medicine is really helpful. So exercise is a huge part of lifestyle medicine, and also a big contributor to the well-being of my participants, which in the research I'll talk about later, was around positive self-determination. We know that, like, when we look at exercise studies, often you see that they'll say, this group exercised for 20 minutes. And often they don't talk about what the exercise actually is. And there's so many different kinds. So sometimes if somebody says, I don't like exercise, it's good to think about what the different kinds of exercise or movement are, or maybe the past histories like you might have had with your body, like my experiences that I shared. So we can look at proprioception, the awareness of our body in space, right? So even now, I'm sitting like on a stool. I'm just trying to be comfortable in a place where I feel really that I would be with people I care about presenting, but in a professional area. But I want to keep my posture lifted. So carry yourself. Sometimes, like even as an example, proprioception, we might be at the supermarket and leaning on the shopping cart. Instead of using that time to elevate your posture, even just stretch, open up your heart, open up your chest, open up your shoulder joints. So exercise could be aerobic exercise, which to me is the key to fitness. Aerobic exercise, exercising the large muscle groups of your body continuously and rhythmically for at least like 15 minutes if you can. It can be at different intensities and somewhere recommended 60 to 80% of your maximum heart rate. Again, it's going to work your brain, your body, your cardiovascular system. This week, lots of studies came out about aerobic exercise and immunity. So I guess what I'm saying is like we need to study more about what type of exercises people are using. And again, different types of exercise create different results. Aerobic exercise can be brisk power walking. It can be running. It doesn't have to be running. It can be dancing. It should cause you to sweat a little bit, to like have a glow going on. And for fitness, the American College of Sports Medicine recommends 150 minutes a week of moderate intensity exercise. One theory that I really like is Gavin's theory of motivation. And again, it's coming back to what do you like to do? Maybe you're a social person. So for me, I love fitness dance because I get to move, I get to dance, I get to connect with people there. Maybe you're more of a solo person. You might want to go for a run or cycling. Maybe you like to be out in nature. So again, cycling or maybe hiking. So Gavin goes into a great taxonomy of different types of personalities that we might have. And then he kind of pairs up exercise with them. Again, fitness, how hard are you working, or is the intensity? How frequently are you training? And ideally trying to get something in every day. It doesn't have to be a 30-minute bout or an hour bout. Even 10 minutes 3 times a day is going to be good, as long as you exercise with good form, execution of movement, and safety first. So you want to build progression. So for somebody new exercising, you want to leave wanting more, always listening to your body. Again, checking the execution of the movements, very, very important. Proper lifting and stretching techniques. So even lifting, I was moving a table with a woman the other day, and she had the table really far away, and she was so nice to help me, and but I felt like I didn't want her to hurt her back, and said, you've got to be close as you move the table, and using your legs, not your back, to lift, right? So these things. Here is a chart of the rate of perceived exertion, which is called the Borg scale. And in our physical activity training, particularly with aerobics, we should use our rate of perceived exertion to challenge ourselves. And this pretty much correlates to how, if I had my heart rate monitor on, that it would pretty much, if I'm being true to myself and authentic, there should be a close realization. So if I think I'm working vigorously, I probably am if I'm being true to myself. So ideally, you want to work moderately to vigorously and challenge yourself in between, but always leave wanting a little bit more. I want to talk a little bit about the history of my experience. So I started training to teach fitness in 1979. I was a graduate student in a psychology program at Montclair State, and I was looking for something to supplement my income. And what I did was I found this ad. It said, learn to teach aerobics, and I didn't know what aerobics was, but I remember that when I was an undergrad and studying urban and outdoor recreation and psychology, one of my teacher said, you'd be a good aerobics instructor. And I didn't know what that was, but then I found out. So I went for this audition. I was the worst one. I was the worst. I didn't have any dance background, but I guess they thought I had a nice personality. So I ended up teaching a lot of classes with a couple people, and I just loved it so much that I put my studies on hold, and I took classes part-time, and then finally went back to the MAPP program how many years later. So that was exciting. One morning I was teaching a class at a gym, and it was a blizzard, and only one lady came, and she said, oh, you don't have to do this now. And I was like, no, we're here together. Let's just go for it. So we ended up talking and having a great workout and really connecting. And after the class, she said, would you be interested in teaching a program or designing a program to reduce alcoholism and drug abuse in seniors as a community alliance program serving different towns in the area? And I was like, I would love to do that. I'm very interested in that. So I used my background in group rhythmic exercise to develop a dance fitness program based on appreciation and welcoming model to encourage a new model of social fitness to make it fun, easy to follow, and where people could work at their own comfortable pace. So I wanted to encourage motivation, but I also wanted them to exercise their brain, because for people of all ages, even intuitively, I knew that there was a benefit. Early on in my career, I had a woman who came in my class, and she was pretty thin, and she's a very attractive lady. And I asked her to take her resting heart rate. And her resting heart rate usually ranges from 60 to maybe 75 or 80 beats per minute for an average person, depending again on your athletic ability, your fitness ability, your age is a factor, your heredity. So the lady came to me and she said, my resting heart rate is 120 beats per minute. So I was alarmed, because that's a really pretty high, very high resting heart rate. So I asked her to take it, and I saw her 2 days later, and she said it's 120. So when I interviewed her, and she was drinking 30 cups of coffee a day, and she was smoking 5 packs of cigarettes. So after talking to her about her choices and her being in our program of fitness for 12 weeks, she ended up having a heart rate of 86 beats per minute. So that is a tremendous, if you think about 120 subtract 86, the difference over a minute times an hour times 24 hours in a day. She had just so much wear and tear, and she ended up having a strong heart rate and much more fitness. So fitness really matters. Brain fitness is integral in aerobic fitness. Here we have our brain on the left sitting quietly, and then after a 20-minute walk, you can see the brain's lit up. And this week, some research came out about, well, does exercise help the brain create more cells? But we know for certain that there's synaptic plasticity, that the between cell function is certainly increased for aerobic exercise. Further, aerobic exercise works the prefrontal lobe, and the prefrontal lobe helps us to make good decisions and to avoid terrible decisions. So that is a key focus of the prefrontal lobe. And music also has the ability to improve the prefrontal lobe. So I'm thinking that if you combine physical rhythmic activity in a social fitness gathering, working cardiovascular, you're going to really have great insurance for the prefrontal lobe and to protect the very, very important executive function. As I began teaching, I could see that people were telling me things like, this class saved my life, or I don't know what I would have done after my husband died if I didn't have the friends here that I'd met. Or I came in feeling lousy today, but after hearing that song, I feel great. And I could see that in the population I was working with, it was mostly women 55 and plus. There were 3 epidemics that also affected modernity. Loneliness, inactivity, which Steve Blair talks about, the epidemic of inactivity, and older age. And people are getting older at the rate of 10,000 a day, up for I think another 15 years. People are going to be reaching their age 65 at the rate of 10,000 a day. So this is something that I really feel we need to look at, is how do we serve older people? How can we make programs for them so that we can help them and their families? And I felt that the work that I was doing was really helpful in that way. I was invited to the birthday party of one of my friends, Helen, who started her class when I started my class when she was in her 60s. I went to her 70th birthday party, and her kids could not believe how fabulous she was doing, especially compared to their other aunts or friends who had people ages of her mother. Well, Helen is now in her 80s. She was in my class on Tuesday morning, decked out, gorgeous and graceful and funny, and just doing her cardiovascular fitness, strength training, flexibility training, balance training, coordination training, and just moving so well and inspiring so many people. So community fitness, it's so sustainable. It could be group fitness at dance, dance at work, at school, at play. Just rethinking out of the box about how do we get people to connect, to move more, to build positive connections, and to help people through the lifespan. And again, this is a picture at Trevestri in Italy, and I just feel like I'm Italian, even though my name is Elaine O'Brien. And I remember we revered our elders, and it was a really important part of my youth, is feeling safety with my grandmother and just feeling like lots of love. But we need to look at older people and mental health, the dual diagnosis of dementia, depression, Alzheimer's, loneliness, personality. That's more than a dual, and how we can help. So one of my goals is to help build face-to-face connections and build understanding, to move from that left depression and stigma to support and care and listening to people. So this is a kind of a poignant picture. On the left is my mom in the memory care. She's this lady, the second lady in. And on the right are my dancer girls. So 3 years ago, this month, my mother had a psychiatric breakdown, and she had suffered from this behavioral disturbances her whole life. But back then, we didn't really talk about psychology, and it was kind of a taboo. And it wasn't until she started doing some really bizarre things. I was in my graduate program meeting with my wonderful mentor and advisor, Dr. Michael Sachs, and I got a call on my cell phone, and it was from a bank, and they said, "Your mother doesn't know how to get home." I said, "Let me talk to her," and they said, "Well, she says you're dead," and just like different things that were just so heartbreaking. And what happened was my brother and I ended up calling and counseling, finding counselors, and it's not that easy to find out if you don't know what you're supposed to do often. So we called a hospital, and they had they made a date for 2 people to come over. 5 minutes before they were supposed to come, my brother and I were with my mother, and we're very nervous. They said, "We're not coming. It's not important enough." And my brother got on the phone, and usually I'm known as being a pit bull because I have been an advocate for my parents and my brother. They came and they brought us to the hospital, and it was one of the worst nights of my life because I felt like we were so concerned. My mother was packing her car again, doing these things, but we weren't believed. It was like we were maybe not loving our mother enough, but we loved her so much. So what happened was they admitted my mother, and she was in the hospital, and then she went to a psychiatric hospital. And about 3 days before, she was there for 2 weeks, and we were told, okay, you need to find a place for your mother or get 24-hour care for your mom in 3 days. So it was just amazing. So thankfully, part of the group that I'm in, we had resources. I was able to talk to people and find out. But my mother is doing amazing now. She's hardy. She lives in a memory care center. It's a whole new world. It's 10 minutes from my home. It's like 5 minutes from my one of my classes, so I can see her often. But the striking change that I could see between the women on the right and then the women and the men who are in this memory care, and the quality of their being is just so striking to me. So I hope you don't mind my sharing that. So moving forward, my research problem, when I started my research, was about that there were so many stories about negative research about older people. And with the Age Wave, a great book by Ken Dykewald, and mental health, we wanted to reduce non-communicable diseases per a meeting at the UN I attended, to reduce heart disease, the #1 American killer, cancer, pulmonary lung disease, diabetes, and again, the scourge of loneliness, that we needed a place for face-to-face connection and more, with more time on screens, that there's a lack of engagement, that we needed to really connect and help people connect and build exercise literacy so people could find things that they enjoy doing and might enjoy helping them to move more and feel better. So these are parts of lifestyle medicine. So what I did was I looked at the people that were in my class. I said, oh my gosh, I have people who've been here for 5 years or more. These people are incredibly self-determined. They're living well. They're living well, not just long. They're positive. What would contribute to them? So I identified 50 women in my program who had been in the program for 5 years or more. With Dr. Erica Tibbetts from Smith College, she did a semi-structured interviews with them. We focused all the questions in the positive. Again, here's self-determination. We could see that the autonomy, competence, and relatedness fostered the motivational, so the drive, the volition, the engagement for enhanced performance, and creativity, persistence in this group of fine women. The lady in the middle is Reverend Pat, and she is a gem, as these other. Nikki on the left dances in the Calendar Girls and performs. Carol is a stunning dancer. Grace, the blonde lady in the front, has 2 master's degrees, and in her mid-80s is going strong, as is Reverend Pat, who just delivered a sermon at 85, and just amazing. So Erica, Dr. Tibbetts did these semi-structured interviews. Again, it was based on positive questions. Some of the results that we found were these themes around the value of positive exercise practices under the auspices of strengths. We applied character strengths along with physical strengths. And I started that at a program that I taught at Temple University when I had a fellowship there. But what we call it is the positive, enjoyable exercise practices under the guise of strengths is PEEPs. So functional age was improved, mental health was improved, community fitness was a big part of these participants' lives, building social capital, changing values and perspectives, and feeling youthful and fit. Further, the participants were not part of Title IX. So Title IX gave women the right to activities like sports. So these were women who had not the benefit of that Title IX program. We looked at their character. We looked at, again, self-determination and how a positive instructor, appreciative practices, enjoyment, and uplifting music in a safe, caring atmosphere help these participants feel really great. Our group was a pretty homogenous group. There was a lot of women who were very spiritual, some who were very religious. They were very giving, very caring. They were educators. They loved their family above all, but all had suffered post-traumatic stress and then post-traumatic growth. This is a word cloud of the answers: positive exercise, the body, movement. And then what I did was, in my study, I triangulated We interviewed the adult children about their mothers. And we found that not only were the mothers' positive self-determination beneficial in helping themselves, but they were also having a great benefit to the family. So that was a very wonderful outcome to see that these family-oriented, caring, loving people, I thought that it was one funny one in here, distractible, but that the mothers were seen as fun, they were social, and they were autonomous. So I think the outcomes in the study really showed the benefit of the group exercise and the individual benefits together. And I really felt that I was so blessed to have Chris Peterson in my as one of my MAPP professors, and also with Sue Lynn and Carrie, who had registered for the call. We got to participate and present at the first China Positive Psychology conferences in Beijing back in 2010. So Chris said we all live, work, love, and work in groups. We all live, love, and work in groups. So why not make the group an explicit focus? So I was really glad to be able to do that, to really look at how the power of the group. And let me just give a little bit of a shout out to Jordana Cole and Sophia for the new MAPP t-shirts for the Chris Peterson Scholarship Foundation. These are absolutely beautiful. So watch and check Lisa Sanson's wonderful news brief for more information about that. So Chris was a great person in my life. He inspired me. I just wish he would have done the energy breaks with us, but I just loved him so much because of his gifts, of his many gifts. So I'm going to ask you, where do you find inspiration in the world? When I was researching for this presentation, I found plogging. So in Sweden, plocka uppa means pick up. So if people are running and they're stuffing their shorts with the bottles of water that are discarded, and so I'm going to try that definitely this spring, is just to help use my healthy body to help the environment, just as this beautiful person is doing. One thing that I did was I ran the Dublin Marathon. I'm not going to say I ran it. I power walked it and ran very, very slowly, but it was a great way to see Dublin. And my goal was to dance across the finish line. And because I was still teaching fitness dance along with coaching clients and doing consulting work, I needed to make sure I didn't get injured. So I wanted to train really safely. And it's funny because, speaking of that, I went to the doctor for my physical the other day, and I told her I'd been teaching so long. She said, "You must have a lot of injuries." And I don't have injuries because I train safely with proper execution of movement and have been really lucky. So other than having bursitis when I couldn't get aerobic shoes back in the day, I've been really blessed. And I want to just talk a second about impact forces. So people running, that's very high impact when you have one foot off the floor. Low impact is 1 foot on the floor at a time, right? So you have 1 foot maintaining contact with the floor. But low impact does not mean low intensity. So I can do squats and push my arms overhead and have a great, great workout, strengthening my heart and my lungs, but keeping the joints safe and secure. We do need some impact for our joints, which is why I recommend strength training with light weights rhythmically, and that will also help your running or your walking. But my goal was to dance across the finish line, and I was really lucky to do that. But my main goal was to raise money for the Arthritis Foundation and to be a part of a team at a local club and to help lift up. And it was one of the high point moments of when I was going through a pretty tough time in my life. I just want to say offhand, I do not belong to a gym. I rarely ever belong to a gym. And I think it's just different strokes for different folks. And about food, I have been living a vegetarian lifestyle for 25 years. So just to put that out there, I don't usually tell people that. I don't tell people some of the things I've said today, but just want to put that out there around inspiration. I thought this was amazing at the Museum in New York of Modern Art. They have a museum workout, and this is just fascinating. If anybody's in New York and wants to go, or you're visiting New York, please contact me. Let me know. Here's our own Caroline Miller on the cover of Parade Magazine. Here's Mika's show, We Speak Dance, a fabulous new show that's on Netflix right now. So where do we shows people dancing all around the world, and just can draw so much inspiration from that. This is my water fitness class. I've been teaching water fitness for the past 16 plus years. I was actually a student in a water fitness class, and our teacher quit, and they said, well, you know how to teach, you do it. And I was like, I really don't know how to teach, but I kind of like faked it till I made it. And then I researched as much as I could at the same time. And then I worked with an engineer who was great knowing about hydrodynamics and water physics. So we applied this program that I used with my athletes, also my competitive aerobic athletes, when I was a national and international coach. And it's a powerful workout. I have one student who came into my water fitness class about 10 years ago, and she weighed over 300 pounds, and she was suffering from neurological disorders. And we welcomed her into the class and loved her up. And 5 years later, she is a miracle. This lady has lost over 150 pounds. And she's inspiring people every day, especially me, with her just quest to make lifestyle medicine a priority in her life, to take her health and achieve the best she can every day. She's organic, and she swears by that. And it's just, I really want to honor her. And every person in this class, I think that if people could do, this is very frivolous and fun, but this is really serious business, to try and really think of water as an equalizer. And I think that if we could apply water exercises in programs for people with physical disabilities, military people who have been hurt, we can really, really help people to really get a lot more joy and autonomy and health in their world, beyond just the frivolity. I think sometimes people think, oh, it's fun, it's, this is cute, but this is serious. This is very serious business. So I want to thank you. And I want you to, I know this is corny maybe, but our touch, our skin is our biggest organ, right? Biggest sense. So do please give yourself a big hug. And I want to thank you. And then if you can, take your hands behind your back and just reach behind your back and just open your heart, and then just pat your chest a little bit here. Other people that I think really inspire greatness would be our Amelia, who finished her amazing Sisu walk. So brava, Amelia. These 6 kids inspire one of my students, a young student who's in her 60s, to be her best every day. And this woman does amazing work celebrating by giving to the community, and helps with kids' sports. And I just thought that was a great picture, so I loved it. And Marty always says, have a picture of babies in your slides. So another thing, the Blue Zones really inspired me. I was actually a member of the Older Women's League when I was 23, and I always felt that we needed to protect and honor older people, and because they're going to be us. But if you go to this website, it gives you a test about living longer better, which is like, that's the thing. We want to, as Dr. Ray Fowler used to say, we want to put life in our years, right? Not just more years, we want life in the years. And God bless him. But with this calculator, it's interesting because it kind of cues you about some of the things that you should be doing, like maybe eating more legumes and maybe fruits and vegetables, and moving more and having less stress. And what we want to do ideally through our bodies is build generation and intergenerational bridges and not walls. You're inspiring people, the way you move, the way you look. Sometimes people just really look to us for inspiration. And if we can just be the best version of what we who we are and love more, starting with ourselves, honoring ourselves, our bodies, maintaining good, healthy habits, building connections with ourselves, others in our world, right? And our humanity, like plugging, right? Being more inclusive, building understanding in the world, fostering awareness around eating, around maybe taking a bath, taking time to rest, relax, to do that differential relaxation, taking time to pause, meditate, do yoga, breathe, to foster joy, and to really reach our full human potential. And I just want to honor a great person, Stephen Hawking, who said, I want to show that people need not be limited by physical handicaps as long as they are not disabled in spirit. And this is him in the zero gravity flight. So I want to thank you very, very much for joining in today. And I hope that you will keep in touch. If I can help you, if you would like to partner with me on any projects, please let me know. And I want to wish you every blessing and good wish.
Thank you, Elaine. And we do have, as Elaine promised, some time for questions and answers. So be thinking about what you'd like to ask Elaine to address and put it into the chat box, and we will deal with it. Elaine, we did have one question I know that came in during your presentation. Where's the picture of you dancing across the finish line?
Oh yeah, I couldn't find that one, but I will look for it for sure.
But congratulations on that. So one thing that I wanted to ask, I think all of us have areas of positive psychology. I was interested, you're talking about all the things that feed into a classic ABC model of thoughts, emotions, and actions as reactions to the external world. Some of us connect more with the cognitive, some with the emotional, some with the bodily part. But I have really become interested recently in what Karen Ravitch calls icebergs. Those deep thoughts in our heads, the fact that we don't always know what we want, we don't always know what we think. Sometimes we're very conflicted about stuff. And I guess one question I would have for you, you're working in this area, are there somatic signals of icebergs? Can paying attention to one's bodily responses help people start to realize those times when they aren't clear about what they want or what they feel or what they're trying to communicate? What would you say in response to that?
Yes, I would say for sure, Dave. And it's funny because I actually took out a slide on the trans-theoretical model. But yeah, that pre-consciousness, right, that we're not even realizing. And I think with all the stimuli that we have going on about us in the world, it's just like to center and really to do like a body scan. So even right now, right, we can look at like our neck. Sometimes I know like I carry tension. So even together we could just shrug and then just draw our ear to our shoulder and just see how that feels. So and then you just hold it for 10 to 15 seconds either way. So I'm thinking that you're absolutely onto something, that there are these icebergs that we need to really watch for in our bodies.
Yeah. So I also wanted to just kind of know, one of the things you were talking about along that line was kind of how we think about food. And for anyone who's interested in it, there's an interesting book. I'm not sure how research-based I would call it. But it's called The Culture Code by a guy named Clotaire Rappel, who was a marketing researcher and still is. But he talks in his book about, for marketing purposes, trying to drive down to what is the code word for particular subjects in cultures. And you'd have to read the book to get the whole system that he uses for doing that. But if you do, I think you'll see that there's some similarity. For example, icebergs, or what Keegan Leahy calls immunity to change, those are the big assumptions kind of thing. But in the United States, the code word, he says, for food is fuel.
Fuel.
And so we don't think about it as enjoyment, whereas in France, it's more about pleasure. Here, it's just about fueling up and making sure we have enough fuel and that kind of thing. So interesting things about that. What are some things that you thought of or that we can do that open the door for other people getting more movement?
So I think I think it goes to Kathy's question about depending where. So is it at work to maybe like talk to stakeholders or the people in charge and see if you could do like a little stretch break or I don't know. I think that to me, as an example, that museum workout is so surprising to me that here the staid place has the wherewithal and the knowledge to know that we need to get people moving more. So what can we do to get people moving more is take them for a walk. Just start to practice. You know what? Also, I definitely want to share Dr. Gavin's work about the personalities because if I send that, can we put that somehow on the website? If I just give you a chart with that, to get people moving more, I think inspiring people because we can tell people, but it's like literally walking the walk. I believe that as we get older, we really need to move our hearts, lift light weights, rhythmic strength training, even with like 5-pound weights or 3-pound weights, and doing that rather than like heavy lifting weights, which is dangerous. So being out in nature is one of the best things that you can do. If the weather's not good, putting on music, I think that's another great way to inspire movement. Again, it depends on the culture, but we can change cultures, even though it's hard, but we have to try. We have to try. Even with being able to lead energy breaks at University of Pennsylvania MAPP. And I want to thank Susie Pileggi for that because she was my seatmate and my cohort, and she knew what I did and said, we've got to get people moving and it's just too long sitting. For me, it's for kids not to move in school. That's the problem because children were made to move and play, and so were adults.
One of the things that I've noticed over the years, of course, the legal education world was really kind of the primary area of my most of my work life, and I know going back to the 80s, kind of when I first started in the early 80s, you just didn't see anything at annual meetings and that stuff that had anything to do with exercise. And today, I would say it's extraordinarily uncommon. I bet you could go to the state bar meetings around the country, and the overwhelming majority, if not every one of them, would have a walk or a yoga session or both set up in the mornings for people to come to. It's just kind of become a part of what we do. And I think I noticed Margaret Greenberg, one of my classmates, mentioning in the comments that she sees more and more of this in the corporate world of folks doing it. So I just think we need to be thinking, I think leaders need to think about this, what can we do to engage people more in exercise? We do have a question that's come in. Let me get this before we run out of time. You mentioned aligning the person, this is from Laura Taylor, to the activity to get people moving. How do you encourage folks to pick up the racket, so to speak, and live out their values in action, particularly when you encounter resistance?
I'm sorry, Dave, you broke up at the end. Hi, Laura. Thank you.
How do you encourage people to live out their values, particularly when they when you encounter resistance?
Resistance in what way?
To moving.
To moving. I say start like easy, something you love, and always leave wanting more. I mean, I think that's so important that people like overdo it, or just like learn about your body. Like try something, even if it's little, every day, even like toe lifts, heel lifts, toe taps. To have passion in the movement. Again, like with music, I think that music often informs movement. So when I am choreographing, there's a level of embodiment that we can start to really own, and that we are embodied humans, our minds, our bodies, and we're one. I think just even expressing joy, think of ways we move, right? We can move, we can march, we can skip, we can amble. So even just like to start having more discussions about the type of nomenclature that there are around our bodies. And one thing I want to say that I really failed to say, and this is totally off this subject, and I hope you don't mind me sharing this. I really want to just get back to the point about older adults, because along with having increasing. We all have people that we love who are older. And I think that a lot of times we hear that, oh, older adults are doing so well. The surveys say that they're doing this. But the people that are taking the surveys are the people who are doing well. So if you come to a memory care center or a assisted living where people they're not going to be taking the surveys. So there's this whole underclass, I don't think that's the right word, but this silent group of people that are really out there that are not being served, and that we need to get combined, just moving more now. So I want everybody out there to please be moving and let me know what you're doing, because I just want to say one thing. My program and our community has really saved my life. 3 months ago tomorrow, my brother passed away. My brother was Teacher of the Year. He's this beautiful, beautiful man. And as a matter of fact, they're starting a foundation on Mike Parada Scholarship for the Arts in his name. And I think that without the connection to the body, to other people, and again, with the MAPP love that we have, the magic here has been life-giving to me. So I want to just express my thanks so much for our brotherhood and sisterhood.
Absolutely. So
I hope you don't mind me sharing.
Absolutely not. And I think, probably we've all got stories. I know I thought of something in my own family about helping people move and stay active and that kind of thing, and how we do it, and sometimes how we hinder that in the way we respond to people. There is one notice that we had in here, because I don't think these show up when people come back and watch these videos, so I want to put it in. Catherine Britton notes that John Rady says scaring people with loss of brain works better than scaring them with heart attacks. But what you're doing, Elaine, is you're turning that into an approach rather than an avoidance goal. Trying to maintain and build in that area. And that is, we have, maybe even Lisa Bertzman's putting in that as we've opened up aerobics and other things into it, we've taken some of the kind of good old boy types of exercise. Let's all go play golf or whatever it is that might have been more tailored to one sex, and opened up other possibilities within the business world for doing that. Elaine, thank you so much for leading this and getting us into this discussion. I would encourage folks, if you've got comments about this, I think the Facebook MAPP Alumni Place is a great place to put this, but we're also getting more folks in this, and want to say a special welcome to Kira Gormley, who's one of our first folks to register for this series, who's not a MAPP graduate. We're glad to have folks. There's a tremendous amount of value that comes to that, and we love having y'all as part. So thank you for being with us for this MAPP CPE. As I said, our next one will be April the 12th with Kyle Benchar. I think that's one you're not going to want to miss. And then Gabe Ortigan coming up after that on April 30th. Everybody have a great day. Elaine, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.